Rescue me before I sink, lose the ship at sea. I said, hey yo, well you came so fast, saved at last, your kiss was mutiny. I said, hey yo, save me from disaster, save me from the wreck that's gonna come, save me from disaster. It's been good for too long, and I took a leap of faith, and I've never fallen faster. Catch me in your arms, save me from disaster. I ride the ship, but I'm bound to slip. The water's to my knees. I said, hey yo,
Thank you for tuning in to Double Cross Radio, live from the state of Jefferson on UCY.tv. I'm Drew Lamb, and with me tonight is my co-host, Chuck Horton, and our very special guest, Kevin Blanch. Mr. Blanch is an environmental activist and a former Wall Street derivatives arbitrage trader. First, I'd like to get into some Fukushima news. This is a topic I cover every single episode, and I will continue to do so as long as Jules is keeping us on the air here. Right now, my radiation alert Inspector EXP is showing a Geiger count of 28 CPMs. I'll take that. That's not bad. Anything below 30, I think, is just dandy. Looking on radiationnetwork.com right now, I'm seeing Geiger counts across the nation. On the West Coast, we're seeing 48 CPMs near Coos Bay, Oregon. 51 CPMs down near San Francisco, 55 up in Michigan, 52 near Philadelphia. Looks like low counts are down at near the tip of Florida, 9 CPMs, and let's see, it looks like there's a couple counters down in Texas, near Austin. We're looking at 8 CPMs. So overall, not too bad. We had some rain recently that didn't register as hot. I went out and sampled some and tested it, and didn't get anything above background radiation, but background radiation is much higher than it used to be. Background radiation used to be, between 6 and 15 CPMs with a standard deviation up to 30 CPMs. Now it's rarely below 30 CPMs. Just looking at Fukushima news here. Let's see, Informable put up an article here. U.S. analysis, Fukushima released 200% as much radioactive iodine as Chernobyl. Only includes reactors 1 and 3. This looks like it was an analysis done just shortly after the beginning of the meltdowns. And they've got a chart here that compares Fukushima Daiichi Units 1 and 3 to 3 Mile Island and Chernobyl. So at Fukushima Daiichi Units 1 and 3, they're showing 96.5 million curies of radioiodines. 3 Mile Island was 15 curies, and Chernobyl was 48 million curies. And so, since then there's been much more material released, and not just radioiodine. There's lots of other nuclear fuels that have been released. Kevin, I'm going to bring you in. Did you want to comment on this?
Well, I keep falling back over and over and over and over again to Chernobyl and the comparisons that everybody wants to make of Chernobyl. I mean, how many days did we go? 500,000 men, the biggest construction project in the history of the world, into Chernobyl. They were going to put a dome over it. Still doesn't have a dome over it. The comparisons are hard to wrap around because we know that, there's been lies about what has been into the atmosphere, but the vast, vast majority of up plutonium, cesium, everything has been pushed into the Pacific Ocean. And so that's where the readings need to start to come from. Granted, the readings in the air are horrible, and there's so much more material in the air that's been reported, especially, in the places like Oregon and Washington and Vancouver, but California. But the worst is yet to be seen. It's hard to wrap your mind around what is going on inside that ocean. and where the plume is headed and how far it's gone and when it's going to start to hit the coast of North in earnest. And, how's the fish market being contaminated as far as the studies that should be in? Where are the marine biologist studies? Where are they? I mean, we are talking 17 months. Where are they? I got a big feud going with Berkeley. Where are they? I mean, they're out there. Why are we not seeing these studies? I think those are going to be the telling real signs of the tale of Fukushima. Fukushima is thousands of times Chernobyl. Thousands, many thousands. It's millions of times, billions of times, trillions of times 3 Mile Island. It is a catastrophe unknown, and the playbook is so set into place by Chernobyl. I use that line over and over again from the Battle of Chernobyl, over and over again, when she says, the worst thing to come out of that reactor was not plutonium, was not cesium, it was lies. Right. And so I'm just waiting. I've been on pins and needles waiting to see, I've seen the early ones that came out, 6 months ago, a year. I want to see one of these big, broad measures coming out of the Pacific Ocean. That's going to tell the tale. Yeah. And when we see those, it's hard to use hyperbole, and it's hard to hypothesize and say this, that, and other thing. We want to see facts. We want to see real, but, we all have logic. We all know that it's been pushed in there for how many days now? We got to 600 yet? Getting close. Yeah, getting Chernobyl close. Was one core meltdown. This is 3. And Chernobyl was, I think, what was it, 87 days? I'm not exactly sure on the
It's not even over. There's still new releases of cesium-137 coming out of Chernobyl, and the sarcophagus is starting to break down.
Absolutely.
There's no solution that exists except for...
No, there is no solution. The entombed solution, and then the solution was they were going to build the dome. Gorbachev said it before he died, or Gorbachev said it. He says, we went broke. They've had one philanthropist over there promising to, fund the dome. And what do? You think about a dome over a nuclear core reactor meltdown. Okay, we're talking above ground, but nuclear fission doesn't work that way. I mean, it's spreading underground just as much as it's spreading above ground, more. That is China syndrome by definition. And so, where do you go with the dome? And like you said, Chernobyl's still releasing. While I was in the hospital, a little girl from Chernobyl died while I was in there just this winter. So, I mean, I look back on, I've turned to black and yellow journalism as my term. We know what yellow journalism. Black and yellow journalism is, I use the colors of the nuclear industry. What I've termed is the non-reporting of Chernobyl. Well, not the non-reporting, the reporting with malice. It's one thing to not report something, but for a journalist to intentionally go out of their way to downplay something as important as environmental poisoning, something as important as that's what I've termed black and yellow journalism. And that's what Chernobyl was, and that's what Fukushima is. But, we have social media, so we're trying to backdoor them. Right. But I don't know that we are in science fiction land. We really honestly are. People can use hyperbole, and they can use all kinds of things saying what's going to happen. Fukushima's going to sink into the ocean. We're going to get a hole here. We're going to blow up that. We're going to burn it. They don't know. That is all, that's all words. It is all words. But we know one thing factually. We know that the agents that are released in a fission situation create gamma rays of incredible power. We know that factually. And we know that cesium-134, cesium-137, plutonium kills people. It gives people leukemia. It gives people thyroid cancer. It gives people heart attacks. We know it. I get this argument all the time that people say, oh, no, you guys are using commentary. I say, oh, no, this is documented. This science has existed for decades. This isn't nothing new. We're not inventing the science. This is documented, unarguable, what the effects of this. And we know that it's happening. We know that it's happening. And so what the results are going to be of it? Well, we know cancer is going to rise.
Mm-hmm.
But
thyroid cancers are huge right now.
We live right here on the Wasatch, is the thyroid cancer capital of the world. Nothing is even close.
Yeah.
Always has been.
Yeah.
You know, the doctor that stepped in and saved my life exactly a year ago, 12 doctors told me that I had no chance. I'd be dead in 2 months. 12. I argued with them. I fought with them. I said, no, it can't be carcinoid cancer, Mine's a rare form that formed in tumors. Leukemia can form in tumors. Well, my doctor is a guy named Vincent Hansen, could be the best oncologist in the country. He says, Kevin, I know of your work. I know of your stories. And he says, you're right. We're all downwinders. And my father and my brother both died of thyroid cancer. And he says, he's the one. And it was that path and that hypothesis, death of my father, death of his father, my name, whatever, that he hypothesized that this was probably leukemia, a rare form. And he was right. He was right. It was leukemia.
And so
to say that, go ahead.
You're currently under treatment for leukemia.
Oh, I've been in the hardcorest cancer treatment you can possibly have for a year. I mean, I was quarantined at the top of LDS hospital. I've been chemoed so hard that heresy M squared, I got down to 119 pounds. I was critical condition for 169 days. I've been through the hardest of the hardest core treatment. That's what I do with my life every day. Every day I hike. My whole life has been now, for 1 year today is surviving leukemia. I have AML leukemia, which is a horrible, horrible, evil monster. I'm up top of LDSC State, one of the top leukemia units in the country. That's where I spent. That's my home. That's where I've been. I was up there for months and months and months. I'm still tied there. Fighting for my life. Like I said, here I rant and rave and carry on about Fukushima and, the open tests in Nevada and my whole PhD, my whole thesis, and my whole activism. I've been carrying on about it. My lectures as a professor, the very thing that I rant and carry on about, I get. But I'm alive. It's radically, radically hardcore changed my life. And, we were talking earlier. I'm a finance guy. I'm a professor. My plastic coming. None of it matters. None of it matters. This trumps everything. The environment trumps everything. And how people can sit and have their family members dying of cancer, or they're fighting cancer, and say it's God's will. It is not God's will. To say that it's God's will would take the quantum leap and say that men are not responsible for their actions. Men are responsible for their actions. This is nuclear. This is, it's a cumulative.
Yeah.
It's a cumulative. And Fukushima is going to kill millions, many millions for many, many years.
Kevin, I hate to interrupt you. You're great and you're doing great. I just wanted to throw this in while you're going, just so people can be aware that the Japanese government just raised the limitations of radiation they allow in the meat that's coming out of their cattle farms and ranches.
Yeah, I read it today. Wow. Nothing new. Same old, same old. Same thing we did in the United States. What do you think we've done here?
There's two religions out there. There's one that's putting too much faith in God, and another one's putting too much faith in government. Yeah, maybe. It could be. These are deep philosophical issues on that front, but as far as the realness of Fukushima, as far as that goes, it's a major cover-up that's gone with the IEA. The IEA is the cheerleading force. Don't kid yourself. The IEA is one powerhouse. The crowning jewel of the 1% is nuclear energy. Nuclear energy is the biggest fallacy ever perforated on the world public. It's the easiest way to become a billionaire. It's unnecessary. It's inefficient. It is an expensive way to create. It kills millions, and it's the easiest way to become a billionaire in the history of mankind. The government taxpayers build it, they support it. You do nothing but sell electricity off and make billions and billions unneeded electricity. Where are all the rolling blackouts in Japan? They've been offline. All of them been offline for how long? Where's the rolling blackouts in Japan?
It's a lie. Germany, I hear this story, it costs billions of dollars to take one offline. It's total BS. Germany had the most cutting-edge, expensive nuclear reactors in the history of the world ready to go online. They says, nope, shut them down. While they were ready to go online, and the ones that were online. Oh, can't be done, can't be done. Oh, yeah? They're doing it. You talk about the G20, well, for that matter, the G8. You're talking 3 of the top 8 economies on Earth. Switzerland, Germany, and Japan. All 3 have said no to nuclear energy. Nuclear energy, they're done. It's the beginning of the end. They are done. Fukushima's a picture. It's done. The United States will be the last one to the game, but it's going to end. It may take 50 years to end. Maybe longer than that, but the damage is done. These morons won't wake up into this country until that plume does hit the west coast of California, and we start to see these serious reports. Mm-hmm. That plutonium plum hasn't even hit Hawaii yet. It's a slow, methodical monster moving across the Pacific. And 3 cores breached and melting down 3 for 600 days, when Chernobyl was 1 for 87 days. 500,000 men in that. I mean, it's just pure logic what's going on in the ocean. Japan made the decision to pour water over it. I mean, was it the right decision to protect Japan? So you see these numbers come out of Japan. The thing is about the numbers in Japan, you got to realize that the vast 99.99999% of the contamination has been pushed into the Pacific Ocean. They saved millions and millions of people's lives in Tokyo by making the decision to push water over the top. There was never no bladder system. A bladder system should have been put in place day one to catch the water that poured over the top, and never was.
Right, yeah.
And that's what they've done the whole time. That's exactly what they're still doing to this day.
Uh-huh.
They're pouring water over the top of it to keep it cool, and them gamma rays are on. Mm-hmm. There's gamma rays, and where are the particles going? Into the Pacific Ocean. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It blows my mind if the study comes out on the San Diego tuna.
Right.
That study was done last August. August of 2011 was reported in March of 2011. Now why? Read that study. The study that was done by whose? Massachusetts Oceanographic Institute came out how long ago? They said in their study, we have found pockets of plankton and sea life that have thousands of times of the limits. That's what it said. Where are the rest of the studies? Where is the University of Washington? Where is, Oregon State? Where is Cal Berkeley? Where is UCLA? Where is San Diego? Where's all these oceanic marine studies? Mm-hmm. Where are they? Mm-hmm. It blows my mind that they haven't been released.
They're afraid to lose their federal funding. They're just
it's the same apparatus that is in place. It is the same apparatus that is in place as the media. I don't know if anybody saw it, but I've been ranting about this. On March 25th, Sanjay Gupta, CNN went, they were at Fukushima. All of them, Gupta, Anderson, Cooper, all of them were there. They were there. They were reporting right from Fukushima. The wind was blowing out, which by luck saved millions and millions of lives in Japan. Saved millions just by luck. The wind was blowing out. It blew out for a week when so much of that was going into the air. Then they started dumping water on it. So as soon as the wind switches that day, CNN comes home. They backed out to Tokyo. They came home. The 25th, Sanjay Gupta, who was set up to be the Surgeon General, on his Sunday morning health show, or Saturday morning, that millions and millions watch, he came on, he had a Japanese doctor on there saying a little radiation's good for you, which is malice enough. Next, he put a guy from Michigan, a photographer, who claimed he had been at Chernobyl and says, hey, I was sick in bed watching Chernobyl and I've seen all this horrible, horrific thing in 1986. And I realized what a lie it was. And I went over there and I took all the, and he put up a picture of people fishing at Lake Chernobyl. That is black and yellow journalism. That is malice. That is malice. That's not underreporting something. That is reporting with intention to deceive the public via the powers there be. Those are the same powers that are covering up the oceanic institutes. There's no doubt in my mind they've been talked to. The media's been talked to. Right from the top. Not just one government, multiple governments. I have the when Jacko got sanctioned to the Situation Room, I have the transcript of when he was called there. Now, I don't have the transcript when he was in there, but boy, when he came out, he was a different person, big time. And he resigned. You know, he's done at the NRC. You know, now Diane McFarland's there. You know, her and I have a long-going relationship as far as this fight goes about what to do with the spent fuel rods. Her and I have been going back and forth for years and years on the spent fuel rods. You know, 252 nuclear reactors in the United States, spent fuel rods have been stored on site for 40 years.
Yeah.
You know, when they told us there was a plan clear back then, there is no plan. You know, so Yucca Mountain was built, and I say, put it in Yucca Mountain. Well, Harry Reid placed Jacko there to keep it out of Yucca Mountain. Now he's placing Diane Reid there to keep it out after they sucked up all that money. Well, they're like, well, let's shoot it into space. And I'm like, you still have to transport. You have to put it in rockets.
Oh, imagine that.
Well, and think about 1986, the Challenger, when it blew up.
Exactly, that's what
right
I'm
here, where I
imagining
live.
right now. Yeah.
Well, you know where Harry Reid worked then, don't you? He worked right there at Fiacco, right
Oh.
there. He worked at ATK. That's where he worked. I mean, so it all comes full circle, all this, but just kicking the can down the road for 40 years on spent fuel.
Yeah.
You know, not even talking about this is we have low-level leakage in these plants on a weekly basis. I mean, it's constant going over and over, and all these the plutonium is so heavy. I mean, it's the evil of it's accumulative in the body.
Yeah.
And the Earth when you're born, you have Chernobyl in you. You have the Nevada test site. That's, you know, I've been trying to prove through my PhD study, my activism for years, that why we are the cancer capital of the world, why we're the autism capital of the world in the Wasatch of Utah, where I live. 300 open-air tests in Nevada. It's that simple. It really is that simple. But people don't want to hear it. Well, now, where you guys live, Oregon, Washington, Vancouver is the jet stream. People think Fukushima is such a long ways away. I'm like, oh, really? Washington, why don't you walk out on the beach and just look out across that Pacific? First thing, you know, if you could just go on a straight line, first thing you're going to hit is Fukushima. You know, Japan. And there's a small place.
Yep. You could fly over there.
That boom's coming.
In much less than a day, you know, like 16 hours or so, I think.
Well, and it's all about, you know, my Fugo rants I've been doing for years. You know, I've been on the Fugo thing even long before Chernobyl happened. You know, those Fugo bombs were landing in Japan. Well, now they're landing again, in Oregon. Here they come again.
Yeah, the fire bombs that were launched from Japan up into the jet stream during World War II.
Yeah, people didn't even know what the jet stream was in World War II.
Yeah.
And, you know, you think that's why the Doolittle rain failed. You know, that's why it failed. They couldn't figure out why those bombs, because they're bombing at high altitude. They had no, like, you know, it was a Japanese philosopher, hundreds, if not thousands of years, that hypothesized this, you know, river up in the air called the jet stream, and that, you know, the Japan says, let's, you know, try it. And everybody says, oh, that was just a fear-mongering tactic. I'm like, oh, really? Tell that to Reverend and his wife and his congregation out there in the woods of Oregon that were all killed when they found one. Real fear-mongering, huh? Yeah, tell that to those 6 people that were dead.
Yeah.
So here we go again.
One of those bombs actually landed in Medford, Oregon, not very far from
Is
where
that right?
we speak today. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where we are right now.
There's, you know, Medford, what a great place. I lived in Coos Bay for a little while. What incredible coastal area that is. In fact, my honeymoon, I drove from Medford to across that freaking highway all the way to Winnemucca because I thought I was going to take my first marriage, I thought I was going to take a shortcut. My wife chewed all her fingernails off. You know, we got caught in March in the snow for 300 miles of nothing. You want to talk? People, I think, around the country and the world don't realize the least populated place on Earth, you know, between where you and I live.
Yeah, that's for sure. Get out there in the outback. So,
well, I think it's going to be Oregon and Washington and California that, well, they already are leading the way. They are going to have to. It's going to, you know, sweet are the uses of necessity. That's Shakespeare. But this is going to be unsweet are the uses of necessity. You guys are going to be up there. This is where the story is really going to break loose in earnest.
Yeah.
You know, it's already starting to. I mean, I tell you, the story hasn't even started yet. There's going to be so many people get freaking cancer. you know.
Yeah, and you and I have both criticized Henri Gunderson about his treatment of this as a public health issue as opposed to a personal health issue. I think Arnie said a few times that there's really nothing that the individual can do. It's everywhere. It's in everything. And what are your thoughts on that? I don't agree with him.
Well, number one, Gunderson, he had no idea who I was. My YouTube site started as my PhD, but I've been an anti-nuclear activist my whole life. My father was nuclear death in the Nevada test site. I'm probably the number one atomic veterans activist in ever. And, I was mentored by Stegner and Edward Abbey and all these incredible activists. I've been involved in this. When Fukushima happened, I put up this radical video that day, went crazy, laid this out. Well, this guy, I didn't really know who Gunderson was. He was in my email every day. I was getting hundreds of emails going back and forth with me, and then finally I realized who he was, and he's arguing with me. He argued with me for 2 weeks with me, telling me I didn't know the difference between a hydrogen plume and a radiated contaminated plume, and I'm like, you're crazy. That breached on impact. Oh, no, it was the I says, oh, no, it wasn't the tsunami that knocked the coolers out. It breached. They cannot handle a 7.0. Those cores breached the second the Earth shook.
Yeah.
And it's going in there, and he and I had it out, and we had it out. I finally had to block him from my site. I told him to F off, which I've done to a lot of these Johnny-come-lately assholes. Anyway, Gunderson and his passive-aggressive, here I got millions from the industry. Well, not millions. I don't know how much he made, but he worked for the industry, him and Busby both. Mm-hmm. They work for the nuclear industry. Oh, so, let's just flip jerseys, what are they, a New York Yankee? Give me the money, I'll go with you. And that's who they are. And I don't trust people like that. I trust grassroots, hardcore, freaking people that have been in the fight from day one. And it's not, I'll tell you what, you better figure it out right now that it's a personal issue. And I'm living proof that it's a personal issue. And you better start living like you have cancer now. You better get that body fat off your body. You better get in shape. When I went into the hospital, when they were measuring me up, I was given too much, I was so much pain, and I was so violently sick. I went without food and water for 4 months, on a bag.
Wow.
And when I went in there and I measured my chest and everything went strong, he says, you're strong in the upper body. And I says, yeah, I can still rattle off 100 push-ups without stopping. He says, you're going to need every bit of it. He was right. Oh, it's because the chemo is so hardcore, and people say, oh, don't use chemo, go to Rick Simpson. I'm like, Rick Simpson's killed more people than freaking, it is your only hope. Let me tell you, if you get leukemia, you get AML, acute leukemia. You don't get yourself hardcore chemo, you're going to die, and you're going to die fast, very fast. These cells, leukemia cells, the killer cells, can tear off 33% of your body mass in as short as 3 days. I was losing 7-8 pounds a day of muscle mass. That's how it affects you. So you better be ready to fight. And I radically changed my diet. I hike every day, and I'm a vegetarian now, and I was a meat eater. I'm on fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, bananas, grapefruit, oatmeal. That's what I live on. They make me this fresh diet, and I'm working with one of the best dietitians in the world. They want vitamin D in you, they want vitamin C in you, and they want it from food sources. And they pound it. I'm on 9 to 12 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. 5-6 times the recommended, well, more than that, 12-15 times the recommended amounts of vitamin C and D.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, those aren't.
And that's your only hope.
Daily allowances. Those are that's it. The government allowances are what you take if you want to keep from dying from some like scurvy or something. To be healthy, you have to take about 1,000 times what they say.
It's so true. It is so true.
So Kevin, I see this stuff passed around Facebook a lot where they're usually charts that show acid foods versus alkaline foods, and they say that changing your body's pH level from acid to alkaline can help destroy cancer cells. Do you know anything about that? Is there any truth to it?
Yeah, and I'll tell you who I default to all the time. Do you know who Gaynor Mitchell is?
No, I do
not. Nature, Nurture, Nature. He's the man.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I'm in fact, this hospital is tied with the University of Washington. This This is world-renowned leukemia centers. I mean, the best in the world here in the University of Washington, and world-class dietitians. And Gaynor Mitchell, he writes the books on how to live with cancer before you get cancer, keep it away, and he goes into this whole thesis about musical therapy, about happiness, about health, and about just what you said, changing the levels in your body via the food, which certain things ward off cancer. We're talking before you get cancer. And then he goes into a different thing on it. There's things in coconut. He goes in. That book is an incredible book. It's Nature, Nurture, Nature by Gaynor Mitchell, an incredible oncologist from Cornell in New York. He's an amazing guy. That's for people who, before they have cancer. That's who I recommend they go to. And as far as the juicers go, I'm a big fan of the juicers. I juice a lot, so... Mm-hmm. And I think logic plays a lot into it, but you get that body fat on, you get yourself in shape. It's your only shot. And even if you do that, I mean, the guy who won the Ironman a couple years ago died while I was in there. One of the number one triathletes in the world, a woman named Nancy, in there. She's on her second bone marrow transplant. So. This disease, when it attacks, if you think, oh, I'm above that. I did. I watched my dad. I really, I ran and raved and carried about. I said, I'm one of these guys. Shit, I'm so strong and I'm so healthy. I never even get a cold. Not me. This could never happen to me. Right. And, it did happen to me. So anybody and that's the problem in America. That's what people think. They think, oh, not me.
And here's something a lot of people don't realize is athletes are probably more prone to this than anybody else because they sweat out so many basic minerals that they need to be healthy, have the good immune system. And all the exercise and training that they do, they lose a lot of that nutrition. They don't replace it often enough or
true.
Enough quantity.
There's a theory out there right now between oncologists because there's so many of them that it is true. And there's a certain chemical that your liver lets off when you excessively train, especially as you get older. And I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's something number 5. But anyway, that chemical, like I said, breaks down the immune system, and it's a natural phenomenon that happens in everybody's liver. But it happens so much in these overtrained athletes that just what you said happens, and that's the theory as why so many of these incredible conditioned people are getting leukemia. AML. And there's a lot of people have misconceptions about leukemia too. There are a lot of forms of it. Chronic leukemia, you can live 20, 30 years. Juvenile leukemia, for the most part, is very curable now. Modern science, a pill for the most part. Most kids are cured from leukemia now. Not all, but most. But AML, like I got, which that's what nuclear fallout does. AML, this kills 75 to 80% of people get it within 8 months. Your chances of living with this disease are small. It is an evil, horrific. It's not thyroid cancer. It's not, breast cancer. All these cancers, pancreatic. We know what that even thing. But this thing, a bone marrow transplant is what you're up against. Which some people they take and some people they don't take. Mm-hmm. And the whole process of going through the treatment alone. It's like I keep going in. I told the doctor, I says, I don't think if it comes back I can go through that again. And I'm a tough person. And he says, oh, you can go through it again, and you're going to go through it again if that's what we have to do. But, they chemo you so hard, destroy every cell. They kill you. They kill every cell in your body. They put a central line in your jugular, one in your spine, one in your brainstem, and they fill you so M squared, the hardest core chemo you can they kill every single cell in your body. But that Hickman line that was invented at the University of Washington goes in your jugular, has 3 things hanging out of it. And they infuse they spin your blood every single morning at 3:30 on those rooms. You're in there with just your personal nurses. They don't even let your family in because your immune system's 0.
Right.
And I got 2 staffs while I was in there, and then they plug you in like a machine. I had 26 things hanging off that bag at once before, off that tree. You're attached to that tree, and that evil monster hanging out of your chest. I call it my evil twin. It's out of me now. So even people that if you survive, I'm telling you, just the process of going through that is so devastating and so overwhelming
And that's what a lot of people are going to be in for. That's what Fukushima is. That's what Chernobyl is. That's what that's so these people that think that, they're in denial. The light for the night walk was the other night, and a young man, 27, he spoke, and he says, "Yeah, I was sick, just felt tired, and my white counts were up, and doctor says, 'Oh, you got leukemia.' And I thought, well, I'll just take some medicine, they'll fix me." Called my wife, and she just broke down crying. I couldn't figure out why. He says, "Oh, I know why now. I've had 2 bone marrow transplants." He was in the hospital for 6 years. 6 years.
Wow.
So the chances of coming out of these diseases, and anybody's had pancreatic cancer, severe brain cancer, any of these cancers, go have a visit with them. Sit down and have a talk with them. Do you think this isn't a personal issue?
It is.
Yeah, it ain't a personal issue until you get cancer.
Yeah, right.
Then it gets real personal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so people need to take responsibility for themselves now. And
oh yeah,
eat like
it's your only hope. It's your only hope. Live like you have cancer today.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a lot of it, and it's not just your diet. There's more to it than that. It's your state of mind. Gaynor Mitchell gets into it a lot. He uses musical therapy. What do you think half of these YouTube videos of mine are all about? Mm-hmm. Trying to keep my mind stimulated and creative. This is my career, my entire career for 1 year to date. This trumped my finance career, my derivative trading career, my brilliant teaching career, my plasmid. This wiped it all out. It's over. Hopefully not forever, but I have a full-time career, fighting leukemia. I mean, it's sun up to sundown, and you don't get one single break, not for 1 day. I've hiked 241 consecutive days now. I hike straight up a mountain 4 freaking miles a day. First I couldn't even make it. I couldn't make it, 10 feet. That's how militant I've been on this.
I've watched your videos.
That's what you're up
out
against.
There. Yeah.
I mean, it's overwhelming. So your only hope is, like you said, take individual responsibility for yourself now. Well, you have no other choice.
So Kevin, you've turned activism into an art form through your use of YouTube and social media, and that's really impressed me. I like how you've encouraged others to take control, be an activist, speak out.
I'm an artist. First and foremost. Even when I was a derivative trader, even everything. First and foremost, I'm an environmentalist and an artist. Always have been. I've always been that. That's who I am. That is the basic foundation of who I am. Even as this YouTube thing evolved, and good activism, and any old school, hardcore, old, great activists, which we had tons of them in this country, that were hardcore, hard-nosed. They weren't tree huggers. I mean, they were tree huggers, but they sure weren't soft. They were meaner than hell. They knew it was all about creativity. They knew it was all about getting, that's what great art is. Great art isn't pretty, as Thomas Ackerman says up there. He says, we're not interior decorators. Socioeconomics, history, all of it, that is what art is culture moving. You have to be out front to get people on board, to move the message, and that's why YouTube and social media is so powerful in that way. It started out as this quirky little thing, let's watch the cat, try to screw a chicken or whatever, and look what it is now. The intellectuals of the world, trust me, they link together on those YouTube sites. My doctor said, Kevin, this had been even 5 years ago. You'd be dead right now. Our big move in cancer treatment and saving your life is because of the internet. These doctors are able to connect. These people are able to connect and use an art form on a YouTube video, because YouTube is an underappreciated, incredible genre. Mm-hmm. Incredible genre. When I got sick, I was standing on it. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to segue into something else that's related to this, and we can go back to what you're talking about. But there's I became aware over the last couple of weeks of a young woman up in Seattle who has been arrested for refusing to speak to a grand jury. And the only reason I was aware of it is through YouTube and Facebook. Yeah. And her name's Leah Plant. And
Yeah, I know about it. I've been reading about it.
Yeah, she was supposed to testify before a secret grand jury, which is kind of. And anyway,
Most grand juries are secret.
She chose to remain silent, and they put her in prison. And I just
tell that to Julian Assange. I tell people, if you're going to be any kind of activist, you better find where the Ecuador embassy is now and move very close to it.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. It depends. Now, there's grand jury situations where it has to be secret, and it has to be, but it's been the overreach of Pay the Dragon Slayer, I call it, the 9/11 overreaction, the radical fake military industrialized complex, the excessive force that is gone in this country. She's a perfect example of it.
Yeah,
they've overreached their boundaries so grotesquely.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
I mean, Mark Twain's famous quote, "There is no wrong or right, there's only popular opinion." And that's why we can't change things from the outside via what we're doing. You can't change things from the inside because you can't. You're right, it has to be changed from the inside, but how do you get to the inside from the outside? So it has to be popular opinion and social media, just like you finding out this woman's cause, calling attention to it. When a cop's macing some people in their face or beating up, so media. He's not going to get away with it. It's the only way you change anything now. And, well, that's my PhD. My whole art movement's called post-ignorance for that reason. There's no excuse for being ignorant about anything anymore. And there's not, you have the internet. The information age is powerful, big time powerful, and it is changing the world. You might not think it is, but it is.
I believe
but
it
again,
is.
The environment. I believe it is too. I know for a fact because I've been teaching for all these years, and I see the under 30 years old, and I see the difference between the baby boomer and the echo boomer. I hate to say it, but the baby boomer and the echo boomer are the most ignorant people in the history of mankind. And that's not even commentary. I've proved that in my PhD. I proved it.
Yeah, but we need to push harder because there's a couple million people have seen the YouTube video of Gangnam Style, and we need to have more people than that seeing this video about Leah Plant. Silence is not a crime. Silence is not a crime. And
no, I agree.
She and I'm sure
for years and years and years in this country. Think about journalism in this country. Think about how many people have refused to reveal their sources. And there's been a few of them going to jail, but it is an age-old battle in philosophies that has gone on forever. But there's situations, there's no doubt, where people need to go to a secret grand jury, and they have to, we're talking heinous crimes, murders and, all kinds of stuff. But now they're using these things, and I don't know what the grand jury is, if it's a crime that she's committed or she's just testifying against someone else. It's how it's being used, when it's being used.
Somebody graffitied City Hall in Seattle, and she wasn't even in Seattle, and she and her
of a graffiti.
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. And,
have you seen? Wow.
She was
in
Portland.
What do you think the Pussy Riot thing's all about? What do you think that's all about? That is, everybody says, they're vile, they're crude, they're crap. Oh no, that is for just this. Mm-hmm. It is. We are I hear it so often, over and over. Oh, what about the future economically? What about the future? The future is now. It's happening now. We are so repressed now. The kidnapping of religion, the kidnapping of everything under the arm of repression. I mean, to not speak to a grand jury for a graffiti case? Are you kidding me? That should be a $100 misdemeanor fine. And they want to put people in prison for that? Look what people get away with in this country. Yet they'll put, Tim DeChristopher's doing 2 years for what? What did he do? Jamie Dimon's not in prison. Freaking none of these Wall Street fraudsters are in prison, but he's in prison for 2 years. It's obscene what they've done to the Justice Department in this country. Well, on the local levels, let's pay the Dragon Slayer, create fear. Yellow journalism. Again, back to yellow journalism. It works. But that's changing. Guys like you calling attention to things like this, getting it out there, letting people see it. There's a lot of logical, smart people out there. Of course, the apparatus there is a big, big wolf, and to crack it down, change takes a long time. This is a cultural change takes a long time. Mm-hmm. Always has.
Yeah.
But the thing is with the, it all comes back, we can get into Wall Street, we can get into, the people, we got 22% of people that are in prison right now that are innocent. That's factual, been proven by, Northwestern University. But the thing that trumps even all of that is the environment. We can fight and dig in politically, socially, philosophically, but that jet stream and them ocean currents and I'm living proof. That's what matters, is our food, the food chain, the air that we breathe. When these guys are able to contaminate this with an evil monster like this, and well, look what happened to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't care how much money. I had 1,000 shares of Apple stock. Mm-hmm. I've made millions on Wall Street in my life, millions. I've had extremely successful. Mm-hmm. Now look at me. I had to fork off for every penny I had to save my own life. Bone marrow transplants are $500,000 by themselves. The average leukemia treatment is $1.4 million. And these guys are good at it. But you better have the means to pay. Mm-hmm. That's
Kevin,
what saved me a year ago.
I think you might have a future as a radio host. You're great. You're great. I love it.
Well,
you can retire to being a full-time radio host.
Well, I don't know about that. That's not my goal in life. I have bigger fish to fry. I'm an artist, and I'm a scholar. I'm an academician. I'm a writer. And I just finished my PhD in June, which is the sad thing about this whole thing. All my work and everything I went through, and right there where I'm getting to the point where all my hard work coming there, and boom, I get cancer. Hit by the truck. Mm-hmm. And that's what it is. I was perfectly good health, perfectly. I got a stomach ache. I was standing on a table at UCLA with a megaphone in my mouth, at an Occupy movement. I was heavily involved with the original Occupy movement guys, and man, I gave a lecture at Washington Square on the 100-year anniversary of the Shirtwaist Fire, which was March of 11, by the way. Mm-hmm. And I was involved with the very, very first people that started this thing. I argued with them about what they wanted to call it. I told them they were crazy. I said, well, it was the stupidest name I ever heard. And we're going to go to Zuccotti. And I'm like, you're nuts. I said, there's nobody down there. I worked on Wall Street for years. It's a ghost town. Wall Street's in Midtown. Move on up to Midtown. But I think Occupy movement had a huge influence on this country. I think it's created a lot of conversations like we're having right now. Mm-hmm. Good conversations. I think it was a very powerful movement. But that's when I got sick. I was down there screaming with a megaphone, and I got a stomach ache. Thought I had food poisoning. I went so the switch can turn on anybody, especially Oregon, Washington, California, Vancouver, BC, because you guys have had that jet stream right over you, and right. You read those readings right when you came on the show.
Yeah, yep.
They're heavy duty shit.
It's heavy duty, and these readings are way higher. I've been following this from the beginning. I bought my Geiger counter from a friend of mine who was working up at Hanford. My first Geiger counter I bought from him, and then I bought a better one after that. So I started taking readings from the get-go, and I saw the counts just gradually getting higher and higher and higher. Coming up into August 2011, I was starting to get readings over 100 CPMs. I think the highest readings I got were about 300. Yeah, over 300 CPMs last November. There was a situation where I got up to get a drink of water, and I glanced down at the counter, and I had my old Victorine fired up at the time, and my CDV 700, and the needle was buried at 300 CPM. So I reached over to change scales to see where it was really at, and then it flooded the tube, and then it fell to 0 while the tube cleared. And so God only knows how high it's gotten. I have an alarm set on my Geiger counter at 90 CPMs, and it's gone off a few times. And I've got HEPA filters running in my house all the time. And if I go take readings on those, I usually get counts between like 84 and 150.
Are you documenting your counts daily? Do you have a journal where you're documenting those?
I used to document them on my blog, and oh,
so you do have a
I did, and then I started just putting them on. I I have a Facebook page called Radiation Weather that I maintain with a couple of my friends.
See, so that's what's been the beauty thing of this is so many of you guys in that region. There's been people all over with these Geiger. That is such a powerful social media. Again, you get these are historical times. I tell Jan this all the time. This Milky the Clown. I says, your work's historic because she has tracked this daily, and she does historical. Well, same with you guys because that's where people are going to be able to look back and want to find out. They're going to be people. There'll be thousands and thousands of PhD dissertations done on this subject, and this is where they're going to come back. This is the information they're going to fish through and dig through.
And the power is in the individual. It's not in the government. There's no organized governmental thing that's doing anything to give anybody any truth or information that's actually reliable. It's only coming from individuals. Yeah,
well, it is. And that's a sad commentary. It is a sad commentary.
Well, there's all these organizations that are government organizations that are supposed to look out for things like this. The EPA RadNet is established to help warn us of things like this, but they don't do anything useful with it. Not useful for the public.
Well, there's the problem. There's the problem with everything. You can go the broad spectrum. You can go from all the way to the free market fairy tales, I call it, or to the passive aggressive socialists or communists, or to the so-called whatever, any hyperbole you want to use, word you want to use. The basic premise to this nightmare is the baby boomer and the echo boomer, the me, self-indulgent assholes. And academia, government agencies, the free market, whatever. Every single person out there, that's what we've turned into. We're about, this can't be me, this can't be me. They're all about vested self-interest that really means jack. It has accomplished nothing. So you got this government job, or you got this teaching job, or you got this whatever. Don't rock the boat. Don't rock the boat. Everybody's comfortable with their position they're in. God forbid anything be done to change the status quo, and that's across the spectrum to the people that have money, that have good jobs, that have everything. Again, change. I hear it over and over. I'm involved with some serious hardcore activists around the world. Trust me, there's some very hardcore intellectuals out there that I'm in a circle with, that I have been for generations. And we have some very deep, fundamental arguments on these as far as changing the EPA, well, my basic premise is my whole agenda is to take down the nuclear industry. That's what I'm up to. My goal is to take them down, to stop it, and they're going down in any way, any form I can. And so we argue about, can it be done from the inside? Can it be done from the outside? And I have some serious, great, brilliant professors and minds that I'm involved with. They say, no, Kevin, it's got to be, in Vienna, in Montreal, all over the world.
These reactors that have been built in the United States, and I know there's more reactors around the world that are a problem. That every one of those had a lifespan when it was built, and they've all exceeded their lifespan. They should be decommissioning them and mothballing them and putting them away one by one right now.
Well, look at Yankee. We don't have underground pipes leaking into the freaking water. You're crazy thinking about that until the wall falls down. We do. I can go over. I can name it. Look at what's going on at Songs, what's going on at Cahoon, Palisades, over and over and over. It's exactly right. Not only to mention 40 years. When we had these arguments in the 1970s, I was involved clear back then. When we had these arguments, I can remember when this industry sprung up. I was involved with, I went to Berkeley. Hell, I knew Goffman. I knew Paul Stegner personally. I knew Edward Abbey personally. These hardcore activists, and the promise was made by the IAEA, by the industry. Yuck them out. We have a plan for the spent fuel, because that was our argument. Our argument was, okay, what are you going to do with the spent fuel? So the argument was, science will find a way to reuse it. No, they won't. That's been the argument the whole time. So this argument's gone since 1970. Well, what's that, 42 years? Where at the spent fuel rod has that argument been solved? In the meantime, we built 252 nuclear plants, like I said, with a lifespan of 20, 30, 40 years, with what's the incentive to improve one? Where's the political will? Where's the economic, you know, okay, say you own a nuclear power plant. Where's your incentive to update that plant? You don't give a damn. You care less. You're all about sucking up the profits.
Right.
That's what the IEA is. They are their cheerleader. They
could
care
make
less.
an economic incentive by the government just telling we are no longer going to give you a liability shield. You are liable for any damages caused by your reactor. If it's not safe, if it's causing death and destruction,
I have personally filed dozens of lawsuits. I'm the guy. The reason you can see the video coming from the atomic veterans in the Nevada test site when the human guinea pig. Those are me. I sued the Justice Department over and over. Me and Hill here in Utah, and some actors, we're the ones that have blocked Blue Castle just on the premise you just said. That's what has to be done. That's what has to. The government protection of the nuclear industry has to be over, and we do that through popular opinion. Just the way Germany is the gold standard of how we're going to do this. People said this could not be done. You cannot. I tell young activists. I do lectures all the time. Do not kid yourself. You are up one incredible monster. You are up. This is David versus Goliath. This is Spartacans. These are trillion, billions, and billions of dollars. You're talking some of the most powerful people in the history of the world. That's who you're going up against. And so the only ways you do that is in numbers, and you have to change. 65% of Americans right now today, believe that Fukushima is over and solved. 65% of Americans today believe that nuclear power should still be being built. Mm-hmm. Today. Mm-hmm. Even within the face of Fukushima. So, and you can walk around your town, even in Oregon, you know, which you'd think everybody in Oregon, this be first and foremost on their brain now.
Yeah.
Go have conversations with people. Oh, what are you talking about? Oh, you mean that earthquake? Oh, yeah, that was a long time ago. That's all fixed.
Yeah.
That's what we think. That's what they think.
I tell you, I bum people out every day. I tell them about what's going on. I've made people cry, you know. But you got to spread the word.
What hurts our cause is the playbook of Chernobyl was set in place, and the lies of Chernobyl is in everybody's mind. But the 9/11 on YouTube got kidnapped, and social media, the internet was this. The paranoid schizophrenics took over. You know, the internet for a long while on the fear-mongering, on everything, and everything's a conspiracy. So what happens to us, people like us, they just clump us into with every other conspiracy theorist there ever is out there. They just throw us in there within the whole pot. Yeah. And so that's what really kills our cause. And so when we have people show up at our sites like they're cons, you have to cut them off, and you have to get rid of them. You have to say, no. Oh, the whole world's going to sink. There's going to be a hole burned through the freak thing. No. It's not. I tell people all the time, it's not going to be 3 eyeballs. It's not going to be 4 arms. It's not that romantic. This is the slow, silent, evil killer. Mm-hmm. This is the slowest. It's a slow, silent, tasteless, smellless evil that will kill you in 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, your generation. You know. The Echo Boomer generation, we've already seen the numbers. You know, I'm working with an agency. We're compiling the numbers of the 25 to 45-year-olds right now. And I'm telling you right now, I've seen these numbers. I mean, in my study, in the hospital, the numbers of your generation that are getting leukemia never showed up in people in their 20s and 30s. It just didn't happen. Right. The working class, man. So it's off the hook. It's up. In 20 to 35-year-old females, in the last decade, AML leukemia is up 1,600%. And people ask me why, and I'm like, it's real easy. It is accumulative. And the body can only take so much. And that's exactly what Einstein said. Sokolov said, they all said. Einstein's quote, we will pay the price 2-3 generations removed. Yeah. That's what's happening. We're paying the price because their bodies can't take anymore. Fukushima's sending them over the top. Just your Geiger counter reads, their body's full. Their body's to the limit. Their bone marrow can't take any more radiation. Yep. And that's just enough to push them up over the top and get these evil diseases. Yeah. You know, education is the key in reality. To be a good activist and to be strong about this, number one, you have to be strong and you have passion. The only way you can be strong and passionate about any subject
or you're going to sound like a moron. You're going to get into it. You know, you have to be able to argue, you have to be able to fight, but you have to have knowledge about your subject matter. You have to learn. And that's what social media is doing for your generation. You guys are learning fast, really fast, and you're the new wave of activists.
Yeah,
And
a bunch of us had to become
key.
nuke experts. I never thought very much about nuclear energy, radiation. You know, I had no idea what the inverse
why would
swirl
you?
was.
You know, too much going around in our world. Why the hell would you?
No, I wanted to go.
I mean, it's the last thing you want to wrap your mind around.
Yeah, I wanted to go snowboarding. You know, go do something fun. Not stay up all night and learn about radiation.
Well, even when you're in college, when you're going along, you think about who the freaking scientists are. They're the anal, but the type of personality that goes to that field. Well, most dynamic creating minds, that's not their gig, So they go to finance, or they go to economics, or they go to something else.
Yeah.
We don't want to think about that shit, but who wants to? It's not exciting. It's boring. It's still. It's dry. It's geeky, nerdy shit. But
one of the other things that I've discovered recently that I didn't know, I consider myself pretty up on nuclear industries. It's possible to build clean reactors that aren't really a threat to our health, but there's no way to make weapons out of that, so there's no call for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah,
Kevin,
there's a much more larger dynamic to this than just energy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's they're vessels for storing MOX fuel that's used for weapons.
What do you think number 4 in Japan is all about?
Yep.
I mean, you think about the vast. You know what? You know how much freaking spent fuel rod is. I remember the first day I heard that. After I've been ranting and raving and carrying on, I get the very first report on Earth on this thing. And I've been carrying on about plutonium going in from the third day. The first day I reported this, saying exactly how this is going to play out. You track my videos all the way back from the day it happened, even before. I was ranting and raving, doing lectures and videos before it happened. And when I found out that day how much fuel was stored in number, I'm like, what? And I'm getting my calculator out, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Well, even if they're storing, all 6 units in that one storage facility, it still wouldn't add up that. And then, my light went on. They got a nuclear weapon plant, which makes perfectly sense. Why wouldn't the United States? We still occupy Japan, military-wise. People don't realize that. I mean, Okinawa, them treaties exist. They're to this day. Their military is our military. They were signed in World War II, and there's China, the big threat. So there's the radical fake military-industrial complex at work again. It's obscene what we've turned into, militarily-wise, in this country. Yeah. The resources that get thrown to, what I call pay the dragonfly are obscene. And then you hear the argument will come at you. These guys will say, oh, well, I like electricity. Yeah, so do I. But you can't decommission. It'll cost $1 billion to decommission a plant. That is the biggest lie ever. Business Week did an article 2 days ago saying how, it's gotten more expensive in Germany. Well, I have a lot of family in Switzerland and Germany. People I went to college with. I have whistleblowers all over Japan, in Germany. I graduated the number 1 school business in the country via the testing, and half the population were Japanese. They live over there. These people are smarter than smart. And they get in there, and so I know what the numbers are in Germany and Japan as far as decommission. $1 billion my ass. It's not true. You could take every nuclear reactor offline in this world, would make very little difference in the energy output in this country, in this world. It's a fallacy. It's a lie. It's a lie. It is unnecessary and unneeded. It's beyond, just on the danger alone, we know that. Just that alone.
Well, and then there's still the problem of storing all the spent fuel. Even after the reactors are decommissioned, up there at Hanford, they've got all this nuclear waste stored up there, and it's stored on top of basalt rock. That whole plain out there is basalt.
Have you seen my videos out of Enviro Solutions out here, right here by where I live?
Yeah.
Have you seen those videos I shoot out there? Those guys hate me with a passion. Herbert hates me with a passion. Oh, I stand right on the freeway and they'll sit and watch me in binoculars. I put my foot over on the other side. I've been fighting with those guys for years. You know, that's the number one storage site in the country, in North America, right there. And get this, they're bankrupt. They've been delisted. Their stock's trading at 30 cents. Their CEO and CFO are both under investigation, probably going to get indicted. These are the people in charge of our nuclear waste. You know, and here we got Herbie trying to backdoor all our freaking laws. And I know all about the facility up there. Same thing. You don't think those facilities have had low-level leaks? You are really in a fairy tale land.
Yeah, Hanford.
The cancer incident near your site up there. Do you know what the cancer incident near your site is up there?
Oh, there's a lot of thyroid cancer with the downwinders, and I know personally of leukemia cases on the other side of the river. You know, like in the Dalles area.
Well, there you go.
You know, so
it's been documented. There's been work done out of the University of Washington. There's been PhD studies done in the proximity around that reactor that show extremely high levels. You want to read a good book? Get out the 1986 book Under the Cloud by Richard Miller, a Utah right here, and he tracks the open air Nevada tests, and he tracks where it rained the next day, and he builds that map and where the incidence of thyroid cancer and leukemia.
Yeah,
their incident, you know.
I did a similar little study on my own where I overlaid incidences of thyroid cancer with nuclear weapons testing fallout in the U.S. and it matches up kind of closely.
Yeah, absolutely, they're perfectly correlated. They're absolutely perfectly correlated. So that, you know, the people say, "Oh, we don't know. You don't know what's." Oh, yes, we do. The science exists. You know, the documented there the studies have been done. They're done. You know, so for people to say that this doesn't cause cancer, they're crazy. That's a lie. It's a pure lie. It does cause cancer. Leukemia, AML, the two known causes. There's only two known causes of AML leukemia: exposure to chemicals like benzene and exposure to radiation. Those are the two known causes. Now, are there other ones? We don't know, but we do know factually. I mean, if you look at the atomic veterans when my father died, 40,000 Marines marched into the trenches. You know, and people say, oh, the support groups, they lived in, you know, no. The Marines themselves, the Pendleton Marines that were put in trenches, right, every single one of them died of leukemia. Every one of them. All of them. You know, so the proof exists. It's out there. It's just a matter of the social conscience, you know, wrapping their mind around it. People don't want to wrap their minds around it. I mean, it's epic classic denial. You know, and it's like, oh, my neighbor's got cancer. Or even me, as active as I was like, it won't happen to me. I'm okay. I'm too tough. I'm too strong. It can happen to anyone. You know, that's the problem. It's so random of who it hits. It all has to do with your genetic makeup and your code.
Right.
You know, some people will be fine with it, and some people won't. But more and more people are going to get it. More and more people are going to die in the prime of their lives. 3/11, I say this, quote, okay, 3/11 will kill millions of times more than 9/11 killed. And as we go forward and we look back on this thing, this story hasn't even yet begun.
Yep.
When that plume starts to hit you guys up there, you know, you're going to start, you know, it'll be if people don't want to report it, no one's going to report it, there'll be independent studies start to come forward. Greenpeace's numbers are already out there. Go to greenpeace.com and look at their boy studies. Scare the living hell out of you. You know, they've been doing studies from day one. The very first studies that came in was their studies. You know, all they do is they place boys, you know, strategically all across the Pacific. The Pacific's the world's biggest food basket on Earth. You know, how far do tuna swim? You know, how far do whales go? You guys know, you live up there. You know, so they set the boys out, and it's really, these are very simple, easy studies to get the numbers. You're going to start to see them come in. And there's a site out there, I don't know how accurate it is, you guys might know better on this, on tracking the plume coming across the Pacific. You know, I get reports that as soon as this winter, up to 3-year window. You know, I don't know which one's accurate. I'm not a scientist. But, you know, and there's been some
there's been some mapping done on it. I'm not talking the debris field. I'm talking the radiation plume of the water that's been poured continuously for 600 days over the reactors that is leaching the Pacific.
I keep seeing a map that gets passed around a lot, and it's a tsunami map, and it's got pretty colors on it. So
yeah,
it looks like it could be a radiation dispersion map or something like that, and it gets handed around a lot. And in the early days, there were a lot of trumped up maps. There was one that showed potential releases of radioactive material into the Pacific Ocean, and it was they measured it in REMS, I think, and the data was all wrong, and so I haven't seen anything that I would really rely upon, because like there was one, I can't remember who released it, but it was just tracking one isotope, and I don't give a crap about just one isotope, like just iodine 131 or whatever. What about the americium and the cesiums?
Well, the key to these studies, we know the different evil things that these things release. We know what they all are. Of course, the killer of the killer is plutonium, but where they can't backdoor these studies, the key is to watch for cesium-137, because there's only one source. Nature can produce cesium-134, can produce a lot of these things, so they can backdoor and downplay. And the IAEA, trust me, the IAEA has an apparatus, a propaganda machine that is a mega monster.
Oh, yeah.
And they will, you read this article that was written in Business Week, there's a perfect one. Well, you've seen them. There's been tons and tons of these, propaganda machine articles. These being paid to write these things, and so that's another thing, is trying to identify strong, healthy information versus posturing and grooming information. So it's so hard for us to dig through it and decipher through. But I tell people, use logic. We have 3 full core meltdowns nothing's been done with those core meltdowns. Nothing. We know what happens when. We know what nuclear power, it contained madness inside that core. We know the kind of energy that is produced inside that core to move those turbines, to create that freaking electricity. When it is unleashed, it gets out of that core, it gets into the environment. That energy, we know when it gets water off the top of it, it creates what we contemporize as China Center, which is nothing but fission.
Yeah.
Not fusion, fission.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know that creates gamma rays. So we have 3 cores that are leaching gamma rays into the ground. We know that it builds and builds and builds and builds. So just by logic, where is that energy going? Where are those isotopes going?
Well,
we know that the vast majority of them are not going in the air.
Yeah.
They're going in the ocean.
Yeah.
There's some other stuff that we're seeing that's pretty startling, a little bit unsettling. The recent that came out this week, I think Drew posted it. The ground is actually sunk almost a whole yard, 32 inches or so.
Yeah, 30 inches, reactor 4.
Yeah.
If you watched that, I did a video on that, and I have a lot of people in Japan. I have some very solid people in Japan that I'm friends with, and they're scared to report anything. And I have 2 very close friends in Hong Kong who are Japanese. And when I seen this report of this, the professor gave of that he gave the report that you guys have all seen it, the Japanese, where he says number 4 is sinking.
Yeah.
And so I report a lot of people mirror my images in China. And in fact, my one video that's showing 8,000, what's her name? She says in Hong Kong alone, she put some software on it, says it had 50,000 views in Hong Kong in 2 days.
Wow.
And so when I put these videos up, you would not believe the Japanese and Chinese people that come to me. I mean, I get, there'll be some days I'll get 500 emails. And so I'm like, people, in Japan are saying, Kevin, we watch for you because you get this good information. You report it. When I reported that was sinking, a lot of people in Japan freaked out on me, really freaked out on me. And I said, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just going on the ambassador. He was the Japanese ambassador. He's the one where I got that information, made that statement to a news organization, and Jan put it up. And so it's so hard to find out if it really is sinking. If it is sinking, oh God, can you imagine if that thing was to go?
Well, and it's not, if it is sinking, the report is that it's not sinking evenly. It's just like a little more here, a little more there. And,
tip over.
Well, yeah, the spent fuel pools just
makes sense,
up
don't
there.
it?
Oh yeah, you got.
It makes sense to me. I mean, look at the thing. For God's sakes, we can look at it every day. How is it not ready to tip over? I mean, what it's went through. You just look at that.
You see steam coming out of the ground. That there's nuke fuel in there, superheating water.
Who knows what's going underneath the ground? People have, the China syndrome. Everybody defaults to that movie. That's contemporized that. But we know there's been plenty of science that has, did simulations of fission for decades and decades, so they know factually what's going on. Now, how the soil and how the earth and how deep and what's the reaction going to be? Is it going to be volcanic? Is it going to be?
Well, yeah, some scientists have said there would be a hydrovolcanic explosion, and you might have a combination of things too. I mean, maybe you have spent fuel pool 4 catches on fire, massive conflagration, and you get some kind of critical chain reaction, and you end up with basically periodic hydrovolcanic eruptions for all eternity, and just happens, and and then it settles out and it happens again, and it ends up
makes very logical sense to me. You've seen volcanic eruptions underwater and what they've been filmed off the coast wide, and that makes logical sense to me. But every time one of those things happens, it's going to be releasing gamma rays. That's what fission is, and I don't think people understand the power of gamma rays. This has never happened in the history of the world. They're powerful. So to think that, and spent fuel rods, it's simple as water and sitting in pools. I mean, that's another thing as far as teaching people. I'm like, you don't have to be scientist to understand. Here you have this incredible, vast amount of energy laying there, and it has to be cooled by water. It's that simple. And if there's no water on it for a very short period of time, they create fission and gamma rays, and that energy goes to a whole other level. So think about number 4, all them pools. All that. I mean, good. Can you imagine if it tipped?
It'll be so hot, it just melt all the rock and go down into the mantle material. And then it's going to create all sorts of havoc. They're already making more and more earthquakes.
Well, think about this, Oppenheimer. And to understand the nuclear evolution, as I call it, the nuclear vagina, the nuclear triangle. To understand the nuclear is to understand Oppenheimer's brain, and to understand him. He was very complex or whatever. He was worried that when they dropped Little Boy, he was worried that it was going to burn up the atmosphere and the Earth was going to end.
He
really was.
It was
honestly was.
Ignite all the oxygen in the atmosphere.
And
they did it anyway.
Same with Sokolov.
They did it anyway. It was insane. Totally insane.
Yeah, it's insane. But think about the Sokolov with the Tsar bomb. His wasn't even a military, to think, I don't blame Grumman for it. He was backed into a fire. I'm not going to get into his mind on that, how that dynamic evolved, but it evolved. But think about the Tsar bomb in Russia. They didn't even need to set that one off for the 300 Nevada test and human guinea pig your own man. Let's just do it anyway. The Tsar bomb, he dropped that half the amount what it was. It registered as seismic. We thought it was an earthquake here. It wasn't until Sweden's like, oh my God, we're picking up levels of plutonium cesium. They're off the hook. They knew what it was. They said it shifted the Earth off its axis slightly, and they still did it. They, and he won what? He won a Nobel Prize in 71 or 74 as a anti-nuclear activist. So you're talking the smartest minds in the world. You're talking Einstein, Sokolov, John Goffman, you can go over the whole list, the Manhattan Project, all of them, every one of these guys on both sides, Russia and the U.S. Were all hardcore anti-nuclear, including Einstein. Hardcore. And so we're going to say, oh, no, it's okay, they were wrong. Oh, really? They were wrong, huh? Talking.
Linus Pauling crusaded against the nuclear testing and got put on a kind of the 1950s version of a no-fly list. He was pretty much in country arrest. He couldn't go outside the country, and he missed the chance to look at the crucial X-ray diffraction stuff that they had in England, and he missed out on a chance to win a Nobel Prize for discovering the structure of DNA, which
all because he was telling the truth.
Yes, it's true. And the guy was a genius, and he deserved a Nobel Prize for that too, because he was so close to it. All he needed to do was look at those pictures, and he would have nailed it instantly.
When I was young, growing up in Utah, and the anti-nuclear, and a lot of people don't realize, in 1982, the anti-nuclear marches across this country. 1.2 million people in Central Park that day. Right here at my little university, 4,000 people population, 12,000 marched. The anti-nuclear movement was massive in the early 80s. And it was on the verge of putting this thing, because they were kind of new then, and everybody was like, no, and then, of course, 3 Mile Island really lit it up. It was on its heels. It was really on its heels. And then I don't know what happened, but we sure lost activism. I mean, the whole country was anti-nuclear, movies, writings. It was contemporary. What did I read? 88%, maybe it was even higher, 90% were against nuclear power and or nuclear weapons in 1982. Now we have 65% of Americans are for it. Still, after Fukushima, after Chernobyl. They told us, oh, this can't happen. When we were activists clear about, oh, it can't happen. Well, what if this happens? Oh, won't happen. Well, it's happened twice in 25 years. Actually 4 times. We got 3 core meltdowns there. I mean, if you would have told somebody that in 1982, that in a 25-year span you had 4 full core meltdowns, they would have, because the IAEA and the whole industry, nuclear industry, told us this is impossible. It cannot happen. It won't ever happen. We have things in place. Does it prove that the IAEA has absolutely no plan and they've been lying to us the whole time, which by law, they're required to have a plan? So it just proves there is no plan.
Kevin, you as an economics man, you know this. The industry insiders get their executives put in the government positions so they can regulate the industry that they participate in, and so that they actually have no regulation, and they have everything is a lie because those people want to go back into the industry after they serve their term in government, so they do what they're told.
The whole apparatus from A to Z has been freaking hijacked. But
it is.
It's blamed. The only thing that can change that, and has changed that over time in history, there's been plenty of times when that thing it's been overcome, is through popular opinion. It's through the masses, and the contemporary American, in world, is so dummied down. They're so dumb, and I can prove it, and I have proved it. And it's not that they're stupid, they're ignorant. And we're changing that. That's how we're changing. That's why nuclear energy is over. I'm telling you. People argue with me. I give lecture. I says, I'm telling you, it's done. It's done. I see the writing on the wall. Germany is the gold standard. They started. Switzerland's done it. Who would ever believe Germany and Switzerland, after all, how much money they've invested in the last 30 years into nuclear energy? They said, done, over, it's done.
I mean, they practically have
it's loser.
They practically have a pebble bed reactor in every backyard. It's very popular.
The thing is, the technology exists. The technology, the wind, the solar, the clean coal, it's there. It is there. It's just not the political will to do it.
Right.
And it's gonna. And people argue with me, oh, it's got to happen inside because Washington's been kidnapped. You're right, it has been kidnapped, every one of them. So what's going to have to happen? Popular opinion has to change. I'm telling you. Mark Twain's quote, I use it over and over. There is no wrong or right. There's popular opinion. If popular opinion gets behind this movement, and that's what kills me. How can you sit and look at your loved one with cancer, dying of cancer, or you're dying with cancer, and not understand that nuclear power and nuclear accidents are giving people cancer? All kinds of cancers. And so people say, oh, it's a natural phenomenon to get the cancer and die. Yeah, if you're 80.
It's not natural for a 20-something-year-old in perfectly good health to get leukemia.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a natural process. It is murder.
Mm-hmm.
It is purely murder. There's no smoking gun because it happens 10, 20 years later.
Yep.
That's what's giving.
Yep.
And people say, "Oh, how do you know that that's what's giving?" There has been Rachel Carson's papers on DDT have been PhD'd thousands of times. There are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of studies out there that prove that it's an unarguable fact. People want to go back into old, tired argument. That's just, there's no sense in arguing. The science is there. It's there.
Mm-hmm.
We know it factually. And the higher the levels and the more oxygen skin, the more cancer. And people say, well, humans live longer. Yeah, they do live longer, but that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. They live longer.
To do with it. There's so many.
It has nothing to do with it.
The age humans are meant to live somewhere between 120 and 160 years. Because we're dying at age 70 means we're killing ourselves, and we kill ourselves as we're poisoning our environment. And we're the vaccines that don't work, that just make people sick. The radiation from Fukushima, the GMOs in the food, the pesticides we spray on our food, all these things make us sick.
Well, that's why we have to come together. We have to come together on all aspects. I don't care what political beliefs, I don't care what philosophies are. The one thing that we've got to get together on this, and I think that Occupy did a lot of that. I brought a lot of people into this conversation of your generation. We have to come together as environmentalists and put other differences aside and realize and say, hey, the environment, the jets, I tell everybody, we are the we. Whether you want to be an I or not, the jet stream tells me so, the ocean currents tell me so. You think you can be an individual and just stand alone when the air that you breathe is not going to let that happen. You have to eat, you have to breathe. I've tried to live an abstract life my whole life, which I've been very successful. I've never fit into the machine. I've been a freelance professor, a freelance Wall Street guy, everything, signed contracts. I've never worked for a paycheck in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But what trumped my hair? The environment.
Mm-hmm.
The environment, we can't go live in a cave. And even if you did go live in a cave, it wouldn't be very fun.
No.
So we've got to come together as a people, and people need to, and you have to learn to influence people and talk to people on a level that they can understand and not get into the hyperbole and the wedge hot button issues that turn people on one way or turn people off the other way. We've got to put them all away when it comes to the environment. And we have to come together and understand that, well, I call it post-ignorance, but the hallmark and the thumbprint going forward is going to be cancer. And it's going to be the food chain.
You're doing a great job tonight. With I don't know how many people are in our audience, but they're learning a lot from you. You've just been awesome so far. My
YouTube sites, I know, and
I'm telling you that people like you need to step up and say these things.
And I have been for years, and I do.
Yeah. We want to keep spreading word too. But you're incredible.
So
I have 500,000 views on YouTube. I've influenced a lot of people. But the thing is, I'm trying, and I get a lot of people coming and say, "Well, we can't watch your videos because you use the F word every other word." I'm like, good.
Well, you got their attention.
Well, when I started out my PhD, I got an argument with another professor. I said, I can use the F word all over because I use it in my classes and everybody knows it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, he's like, no, you can't. I said, oh yeah, I read the ruling. I know for a fact you can say pretty well anything. I know where the boundaries are. So I started putting up one video versus another. And I was doing finance videos, but I got into my socioeconomic PhD study. I got into that on using the F word versus not using it on similar, and then of course the BP disaster happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went crazy. And that's another thing that really outrages me. I get arguments, this is the same guy who was ranting and raving about BP. Oh, it didn't do nothing. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I teach a whole class on environmental economics. You know how many jobs that destroyed?
Yeah, and it's not over yet either.
In the food industry. Yeah. No, hell no. Not even over. It's just been another cover-up. It's the same playbook as Chernobyl.
Yeah. So let's say we eat all the right things and stuff and have a shot at living to be 120.
Yeah.
We have to have our finances in order to live that long. So Chuck, what are your thoughts on the dismal science issues that we talk about every week.
Oh, it's getting tougher and tougher to figure out ways that you can preserve wealth long enough to outlast your lifespan. The near future looks pretty bleak because you better be fit, better be able to make a living with sweat from your brow, because I think we're going to have some kind of a financial collapse in the next. Well,
we already have the financial collapse. We have the financial collapse. I mean, people have been in fairy tale land. I tell you, where was everybody between 2000 and 2006 when we really had the financial collapse?
Mm-hmm.
You know, oil was $10 a barrel in 2000. Gold was $225 an ounce. I can prove how 80% of wealth was already been destroyed. It's the here and now.
Mm-hmm.
There are plenty of good investments out there.
Mm-hmm.
High dividend yield stocks. I'm telling you. Well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but the ability to gain the wealth to buy those, there's the problem.
Yeah, right.
Where are you going to get the money to buy a stock? Where are you going to get the money to freaking buy some silver, or buy some gold, or to have anything to invest, or buy a piece of land? I mean,
yeah, right.
Where's that coming from?
Exactly.
So we're going backwards that way.
Right.
You know, I had 1,000 shares of Apple stock. I forked it over, saved my life.
So,
I'm a derivative guy. I play the derivative markets.
Kevin, do you think there still is a correlation between the price of a stock and its earnings, or is it all just program trading now?
No. There's certain individual stock, absolutely, but there are fewer and fewer companies. You know, and I get into this is my forte. You know, I put up videos 2 years ago telling people 3 years ago what to go into IBM, go into Apple. I say it like this. There are certain companies out there that have huge revenue streams, who are making huge amount of money that the computers cannot take over, because their earnings are so powerful, they're so monopolies, they're so big, they're so gargantuous. Microsoft, Apple, IBM. That there's very, very few of them. The rest of it is nothing but it's worse than a slot machine.
Right.
Like I said, 90-something% is nothing but computer. I was on Wall Street for years. I mean, that's how I lost my job. I was in the hedge fund industry. I was an arbitrage derivative specialist, had a huge successful career. We all lost our jobs to a computer. My firm, 132 people, was replaced by one person, a math PhD. He took us all out of the equation.
So you were involved in derivatives arbitrage.
Yeah, that's what I did.
That's one hell of a specialty. So,
oh yeah.
So one thing that I wanted to, I was hoping to discuss tonight was derivatives, specifically derivatives that are tied to mortgage-backed securities and also like
credit default swaps, and also how the banksters are driving down the values of precious metals. The thing about a credit default, derivatives have been around for hundreds of years. I tell everybody, read East of Eden, you know, Caleb Lenny makes corn futures market, which they have a very solid purpose, you know, to hedge industries like the oil industry, the timber industry. That's what they're for. Now, derivatives on stocks, which came around 1980, that's what my specialty was. The intrinsic value of those. That's why I don't want to participate in Apple. As I call them, Steve Chinese jobs. The core is rotten. But I'll buy the derivative because I'm not funding that. But when it comes to credit default swaps, they're not transparent. When they were developed, and those guys started developing that apparatus to hedge their portfolios, which in concept was right. But why weren't they transparent? Why couldn't I trade him? I couldn't trade him. You couldn't trade him. Hell, I had connections from hell on Wall Street. Paulson, not the Paulson, the Treasury Secretary, the other Paulson who claims to be the guru, who's as phony as they get. The only reason he's rich, the only reason, he had a friend that let him in on this credit default swap platform. And like thousands of us thought that the housing bubble was going to pop, he was able to buy, you know, the derivatives in that market one you and I couldn't.
Right.
It's bullshit that you can have a market that is hinged to our economy so big time that is not transparent. And the problem is, a lot of people don't realize it was the insurance company that taught this down. AIG wrote those derivatives. It's like a bad booking. They didn't pay, which is SAC's evil cousin. So they wrote those derivatives. So the derivatives, they got their ass kicked on it. So here you know, they're not covered. They were naked, and they're like, oh, we don't have the money to pay. Well, in violation of all regulation, against the law. How can you write a derivative and make a derivative and say, oh, sorry, I ain't paying? That's exactly what happened. That's exactly, it was AIG who took this down.
Right.
It was AIG.
Yeah.
I mean, these banks were no good scumbags, but they were hedging their portfolios, which that's what good investment. That's what arbitrage guys do. That's what I did. I hedged portfolios in a logical, meaningful way. They're insurance policies. You know, well, I'm an arbitrage, so I would exploit the arbitrage between, you know, two equities. You know, a company, Palm, 3Com's the famous one. You know, I was heavily involved in that.
So for the listener's sake, arbitrage is when you're taking something from one market and selling it in another marketplace. No. A financial arbitrage is when there's a disparity between two. They're the exact same asset, but they're trading under a different name. For instance, you know, a carry trade is similar. A carry trade basically is, you know, an interest rate arbitrage. But, okay, for instance, 3Com and Palm, which, by the way, is the day the market capitulated, they're the same company. They're the same company. Okay, they're going to spin it out. Well, the shareholders are going to get X amount of it that's intrinsic. They are the same company. Well, one's either trading too high and the other's trading too low. They're not perfectly correlated when you do the math. So, in pure reality, either they both got to come down and come together, both come up, but in some form, they're going to one up and down in some form. They're going to meet somewhere. And all an arbitrage is you short one, long the other, but I take it further than that. I use the derivatives market. Puts on one, options on the other, identify that. It's almost a guaranteed way to make money, which is very, very legal. It's the same thing that went out through. You know, we hear all the time, oh, these derivatives are evil, these derivatives are not evil. It's the people freaking handling the derivatives that are evil. It's a crooked-ass market, unregulated, bunch of weasels. You know, the curbside exchange, which I used to work on, they were the worst. But the CBOE in Chicago, which is still only open up cry left in America, I never had a problem with any of those guys. But when these guys started writing these derivatives on the mortgage-backed securities, the CDOs and whatnot, when they're not transparent, how can they be regulated? How can they take? So there were a bunch of crooks. They were saying, "Hey, come buy some insurance. Come buy these things." But you know, you got in a car wreck. What are you talking about? Right.
I need you to pay on an insurance policy. Oh, sorry. That's exactly what happened.
It's kind of like me. I printed up a bunch of fake titles to homes. Fake deeds, and I took them in the bank and says, "Give me a couple $1 million for these deeds."
Which happened. We know that happened. You know, that happened too. You know, we live in this culture of, I call it the hairsprayed fake radicals. You know, it's a culture of fraud. It's a house of cards. You know, everybody gain wealth that anybody else has caused by lying, manipulating. White collar crime is legal in this country. There's the problem. White collar crime has been contemporized. I say white collar crime is not only legal in this country, it's encouraged.
It's legal if you bribe the right people.
Well, it's not even bribe the right people. Just be a shyster, be a con man, be a hairsprayed weasel liar. It happens through the church here. You know, the Mormons are famous for it.
Madoff didn't bribe the right people. Yeah.
Well, when I was on Wall Street, everybody knew what Madoff was up to. I knew what he was up to. He was in the lipstick building over there, and I'm like, we were talking about it back then. I was in the business he was in. And he developed a model, and he was saying he was doing just what I did. He was an arbitrage guy. He was a hedger. That's what hedge funds do. They hedge positions. I'm like, if he's hedging this portfolio that he has, there's not enough derivatives on earth. There's only so many derivatives out there. There's only so many. I says, if he's got that entire portfolio hedged, you can guarantee profit. It can be done. People think it can't. You buy a high dividend yield stock, you buy the derivative underneath it, and properly roll it in a 3-month interval. That's what I did for a living. It's complex, but you can guarantee a rate of return. You can't. It's done every day. But it's sophisticated, but there's only so many derivatives out there. So your fund can only get so big, or you defeat your own purpose, because you'll push the price of the derivative. You'll move that price of the derivative. I'm like, everybody was screaming, if he's really hedging the way he's doing, guaranteeing 10%, they'd have to have a derivatives market the size of Montana. He'd have to own every derivative in the world 5 times over. So it isn't like everybody, but he did it through religion, you know, just like it happened here. A guy here named Southwick did. I call him the Mormon Madoff, but he did it through the Jewish community there. You know, and so they just blindly went in when there were so many people screaming their head off that it was fraud. You know, but I think there were thousands of Madoffs. I know there were thousands, but a lot of people don't realize in this country we have a rule called putting down the gate in the hedge in the mutual fund industry. How many people are out there listening when the meltdown in 2008 started, called up and says, "I want my money out," and they says, "Sorry, you can't have it out." And like, what do you mean? The law exists. We call putting down the gate. I call window dressing on Balco.
Right.
They put down the gate, and State Street comes right out.
That's like a bank holiday, right?
You know,
yeah.
Well, you can't get it out. You can't get it out. Yeah, it's a bank holiday. That's exactly what it is. And so you couldn't get it out for a year. So State Street comes out and breaks the buck. Break the buck is fraud. What that means that the mutual funds that they're the clearinghouse for, the X amount of money by law they have, they didn't have. They proved that they didn't have.
Yeah, right.
It's called break the buck. So there were thousands. I worked in this industry. I watched it. If you're a mutual fund manager, the easiest job on earth, they window dress at the end of the quarter. They don't even own. Send you out your statement. They go lay on the beach. They buy the markets. They buy the QQQs. They buy the freaking, they buy whatever. They buy the indexes.
Right.
And so, why do you think 80% of all funds underperform the indexes just slightly? Oh, sorry, you lost 30%, but the market's down 28%. Oh, okay, honey. Looks like we're doing something. That's damn economy, darn it.
Yeah.
When you got 5% of mutual funds people that go to work, that are good at this, that outperform the market year in and year out. But people don't go to invest to those guys because they're not good salesmen.
Right.
A good salesman gets your money through the mutual fund. And so I think there were thousands of Madoffs. I know factually there was. Wall Street, what it's evolved into, I was there. I watched it dissolve. I watched it. I watched the shysters take it over, and the computers take it over. It's done. It's a bunch of crooks.
So
it's a horrible freaking place.
I remember a story, I think it was earlier this spring. It was when Gerald Salenti was having all his problems, and there was a commodities broker in the Midwest that just resigned, says, "I'm not going to take part in this anymore. This is criminal what's happening." And she said, "I'm going to go do another line of work." That was it.
I traded so many derivatives on the CBOE in the 90s. I traded so many, and I was such a big player. And I was straight. I would call the secretary at the CBOE. She knew my voice. "Mr. Blanch, what derivative you want written?" I'd say, "I want 135s on COMS Novembers." 100% of the time, they were there the next day.
Wow.
And so I watched it. There was a lot of good people in that market. In Chicago, Gary Fenzick's company, when he was down there, so many good, solid, hard-working people. I mean, this is a hardcore business. You don't think being a derivative trader down there is hardcore intensity. Those guys, they all die in their 50s. It's hard work.
Yeah.
It really is much harder, more complex. But we all those people lost all their jobs just for what you said. We got forced out by the shysters, the fraudsters, the criminals, by the fakers, the computers. They forced just like this guy. I can't do it anymore. Won't do it anymore. That's why I left. That's exactly why I left. I left in 2000.
Guys like John Corzine.
Yeah.
Another crook.
Yeah.
And he's going to get away with it.
Yeah.
He got away with it.
Yeah, and it kills me how dumb these guys are. What kills me is people fork their money over to these people. You couldn't be this bad of an investor. Hell, you and I could take that freaking money and go to Vegas and do better than these morons do with it. How can they be that bad?
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't set out to be that bad and be that bad, and they are. I knew guys that, in my firm that I worked in, I outperformed. I was the number one guy there for years, and I didn't make the most money. I seen guys that were 20, 30% under the market year in, year out, over, and they'd been there for decades. Just their whole lives, all they did was lose millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars for people, but they had jobs. Because people don't do their own homework on investment. Oh, they just hand it over to a 401k. Oh, they'll do the right thing.
Yeah.
And they don't dig in and do their own. It's hard work to be a good investor. Investing it's not a game just to throw money in. It's hard work.
Well, I remember when there was all the hype over Enron, and I grabbed. I was like, I wanted to see what this was all about. I was like, well, I better check this out. What are these guys doing? So I got on SEC.gov, grabbed their 10K, flipped to the notes, and I'm reading through, and they disclosed that they had stuff off balance sheet. It was in the notes, And I'm like, oh, okay, so I call investor relations. Hey, what's the deal with this off-balance sheet stuff? Can you give me any info on that? No, can't. Okay, well, I can't invest in your company then because I don't know what your real earnings are.
Think about the whole dynamic of deregulating energy, deregulating public utilities. It used to be the boring investment. You get a couple % on your money, you get your dividend. They deregulate the public utilities, and they allow off-balance sheet accounting. I'm an ex-semiconductor analyst. Mm-hmm. How can you possibly evaluate as a fund? I'm a fundamentalist.
It's impossible.
Analyst. I'm an analyst.
Yeah,
it's absolutely impossible. It cannot be done.
No.
So it really is a casino. Then, if they got off-balance sheet, and you're in there, it's a freaking
So what I'm
casino.
saying, all these people were crying and all this stuff. Oh, I lost all my money, and I feel really bad for them. But it was their own fault because it was disclosed.
A lot of them was.
It was disclosed. It was there. I saw it. I'm like, this is a dumb investment.
Who do you think caused the rolling blackouts? And you want to talk about nuclear energy? They were dabbling in there. Think about the rolling blackouts they caused.
Right.
Those blackouts that we had in those, they were Enron. Enron created a freaking market that did not exist. They had a fairy tale. Creating wealth, it's check kiting on Balco.
Right.
Credit card kiting, they lost track of the money supply, and then we wonder why we've got a freaking nightmare economy that we're in.
Yeah, right.
That behavior was allowed to go on for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same
15
situation
years
we
that was
were
allowed.
discussing in the nuclear industry. They had their guys in the former executives were in the government writing regulations so they could pull this scam off on everybody, and they did it under the guise of deregulation, so all the conservatives would buy into it, saying, "Oh, this is a good thing," because they didn't pause to say, "Well, just how is this deregulation when you're imposing different kinds of regulations on everything?" And it wasn't really deregulation; that was just what they called it. It was they rigged the game so that they could do the scam.
Well, think about how they were able to rig the game. How were they able to pull this masquerade party off on the American public? They hijacked both parties. And how did they hijack both parties? Wedge issues. Okay, well, you go talk to the average voter. What do they want to talk about? Guns, gold, God. Okay, God. Okay? Oh, that trumps everything, yeah. Oh, homosexual marriage. Really? Really? Are those the issues you give a damn about? And one side and the other, they divide up on it. When, you stole your job, you sent our jobs to China, you can't even have a conversation about protectionism or tariffs, you can't even have a conversation. But they'll sure talk about their AK-47 or, gay marriage or whatever. That's what people divide up for, and it's on both sides. It's on both sides.
I love my AK-47, though.
Yeah, well, I tell everybody, if I need a gun, I'll go right here. The machine gun was invented right here in this town by John Browning. I dated John Browning's granddaughter for years.
Oh, wow.
I said, I'll get out my double-barrel Browning shotgun. I surely don't. He'd roll over in his grave if he'd seen one of those cheap Russian pieces of shit in somebody's hand. I mean, at least make them here.
Yeah,
if you're going to buy them, at least make them here in the U.S.
I bought mine chopped up and assembled it here.
There you go. Well, so there's the wedge issue. So we can't have conversations. So in the meantime, we're all worried about the AK-47. We're all worried about this hyperbole, pay the dragon slayer, whatever. All this wedge, hot button emotional issues that they're so good of. I debated Karl Rove in the '80s. In fact, what's her name says you created that monster. She even did a little doc. She says you and what's her name created because you beat him so bad. You created it. He developed this dynamic. He took it on to Balco as far as the dynamic of wedge issues. Throw wedge issues and hot button issues in the name of God to people, and then the apparatus of Washington, just like you said, we can hijack every single industry out there, boom, boom, every single agency out there, boom, 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 while everybody's got their mind on these hot button issues, and that's what they're going to vote on. In the meantime, we don't have conversations about anything that really matters. We have conversations about stuff that don't mean shit.
Yeah.
They don't mean shit.
Yep.
Your job, the air that you breathe, the money that you make, the strength of your currency, your buying power, all those are things that are old progressive idealism. Well, even left and right, they understood them. Mm-hmm. Our fathers and our grandparents understood those freaking philosophies. Now, granted, you're going to have two different philosophies, but you're going to find a way to find people to have good jobs, to have clean air, food. We're going to find a way, but not one you can't even have the conversation. You can't even have the conversation.
Kevin, for almost the entire 19th century, the political debate was between the Democrats who favored honest money, gold and silver, and the Republicans who wanted more fractional reserve banking. And that was the big debate. And The Republicans, because they kind of crushed all the Democrats in the Civil War. They kind of dominated things in the second half of that century. But
Right.
when they needed a hero to redeem them, Grover Alexander was elected, and he saved this country's ass.
Cleveland.
Yeah.
Well, and then you got, of course, and then I'm just reading a book right now. I'm reading right now. In fact, when you guys called, I was reading, the feud between Mark Twain and, Teddy Roosevelt, and, the feud that was going on right then, and that whole dynamic that was created in those days. They hated each other with a bloody passion, and the end of his life. And so the whole dynamic, but when people fall back on, I'm like, you know how many people in 1907 were in this country? 80 million. And I don't think it was that big. We're 310 million. I mean, it's a different playing field out there for that very reason. There's a lot of people in this country, a lot of people in this country, and the resources that we have. And that's another reason the environmental movement needs to tighten up and strengthen up, just to manage the resources that exist in a logical fashion, so we don't exhaust them all and don't turn into, I got a friend in Scotland. He's Kevin, the landscape over there looks so much, but we don't have any trees, because we cut them all down, all of them. You guys know that conversation because, you're up in Oregon.
Oh,
you guys understand.
Yeah.
We have lots of trees, though.
Yeah, we have lots
There's
of trees.
A balance.
Yeah.
They set them on fire every summer.
Yeah. What a dry year. Of course, you guys, my brother lives in Seattle. He says it was so beautiful up there all year. Broke record for the most sunlight days in a row in history up there this year, huh?
They've been chemtrailing the hell out of the Pacific Ocean, and so we hardly get any water vapor, and we've hardly had any rain. And then when we do get clouds, they're these weird, heavy, wispy things that fan out and turn the sky gray. It's been kind of strange today.
When we do get a low pressure, it just sends in a bunch of clouds with dry lightning and starts fires.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that Fukushima has a consequence on the Northwest on the weather pattern already?
Well, I think it could be possible that it heats the atmosphere, and that could have some sort of an effect on weather patterns. I mean, that's just a theory. I don't know if there's any truth to that or not.
I know Radchick digs into this subject matter a lot.
Yeah. Christina, Christina, I think, is listening tonight, and she's really sick, and I hope she gets well soon and gets back on the air. But I know she's talked about...
Look up colloidal silver, Christina. Colloidal silver. It'll help your immune system. Plus plenty of vitamin D and vitamin C.
Yeah, get better. Don't let that take you down. That's a nasty, nasty thing to get. Speaking of that, leukemia, that's another thing that a lot of people don't realize. I think how you get leukemia just die. Most leukemia patients die of pneumonia. It's an ugly death. It's an ugly, painful, horrific death, and they'll blast you full of morphine, what they can do to try to kill you easier, but that's how it goes. It gets in them lungs, it gets in that heart, and it's not an easy death. If you've ever been really, really sick in the lungs, that's where it goes. That's another reason to hike and stay in shape, so the lungs can try to fight it.
So Kevin, can you give some advice on just how to stay positive when wrestling with not just these issues, but just in a true fight for your life?
I call it the poetry of anger. Mm-hmm. I call it the poetry of anger. You have to get mad, you have to get angry, but you have to do it in a logical frame, and you have to use the creative mind. I tweeted a vlog out on my site while I was almost dead in the hospital, and I wrote this little poem about, can I use my I'm an artist. Always been, can I use my creativity to overcome this? Because I'm a big believer in, I'm a very spiritual person. We had a lot of spiritual healers in the Northwest, all over the world, that were doing seances for me, doing all kinds of things for me. A lot of positive energy was sent to me. And, the thing is you have to find in deep in your side of your mind and your soul what really truly makes me happy and keeps them creative, positive energies going in your mind. That's a lot of my YouTube videos, but you have to do it in a forceful, angry way. And you got to treat the illness as your new career. That is your career. I mean, hard career, all your hobbies, everything are gone, and your career is fighting. It's fighting. And you got to get mad, and then you'll get, trust me, when the doctor looks you in the face, says you got little chance of living, you're going through that epic pain, you're going to get real spiritual. You're going to get right down to the core of your humanity, and you're going to find yourself in there. You will. You'll find yourself in there, and you know, and you'll find the joy and the happiness and the love of all those things that exist in the world. They'll be there, and there's a fight between the demons in your mind and the angels in your mind, and you know, you got to let the good, the beauty, you know, the color, the world. You know, I let the sun, you know, the sky, you know, the trees, the environment, you know, the water. I pick a different place around northern Utah. You see my videos. I'm there. I know where they're all. I visit them every day. I visit them because they make me happy and they make me feel good. You know, and I hike and I walk. And I listen to a lot of music. A lot of music.
What kind of
therapy?
What kind of music do you recommend?
I like all kinds of stuff. I'm a big fan of Nirvana up there. I'm a huge fan of Nirvana.
I saw Nirvana live back in the day. Yeah.
Wow, how great! You know, so the musical therapy, you know, and then I'll fall back when I get really down. I always listen to Metallica. I'll get back to Metallica. You know, I'll listen to Metallica Load.
That's some good
that one will
music.
get me motivated, get me going. That'll get me going, you know, and make me fight. You know, I want to fight. You know, I'm not going down without a. You know, these fuckers piss me off. You're not going to murder me. I watched them murder my dad. The IAEA, the NA, the nuclear industry, the phony liars that they are, the passive aggressives. You know, as Mark Twain said it in the end of his life in a rant of his, and I love his old rants. I'm into literature big time. I'm into art, historical art. I'm an artist. And I'm a professor of finance. I love finance. You know, baseball. But he said, from my perspective, all men are cowards. You know, and I think both men are cowards. You know, and I'm not going to be that. And I'm going to call them out to their face. You know, and I'm going to go down fighting. You know, I'm not going to. And that's what you have to. That's the way you have to face this issue. If you get cancer, or anything, and anybody who tells you that, I've been in that hospital. People that give up, you know, and you can't blame them for giving up because it's epic fight. It's an epic. You know, I'm a tough guy. I'm a really tough guy. I've had a broken back. I've got scars all over I broke every bone in my body. I've never been through anything even close to this. It's a fight from hell, and you better fight. If you don't fight, you're gonna die. You, honestly, it comes down to the fight. It comes down. I call it the poetry of anger, and keeping yourself moving, keeping yourself motivated, keeping that mind creative and dynamic. Whatever your creative and dynamic things that you like to think about, you like to argue about, you like to get passionate about, do it. Do it. You know, do what you got to do. And that's because, and I think that's with all cancer. I don't think that's just leukemia. You know, be a fighter. You know, don't be soft. You know, and if you offend somebody along the way, who gives a shit? You know, have some self-confidence about yourself. Dig down and say, hey, you know, find out who you are and say, just make the decision. Draw a line in the sand. That's what I did. I would hike through Memory Grove, and the doctors were like, Kevin, you got to quit doing that, you know, with that pick line hanging out of you. You've had too much. I said, I don't care. I'm not going to die in this bed.
Kevin, I got a poem for you. As we wind it up, I got a poem for you. This is someone who posted this today. Alas, my friend, the boast is poor. He who has mingled in the fray of duty, that the brave endure, must have foes. If you have none, small is the work that you have done. You've hit no traitor on the hip. You've dashed no cup from perjured lip. You've never turned the wrong to right. You've been a coward in the fight. I have feelings you've never been a coward. So I'm pleased to have you on tonight. You've been awesome.
Wow.
Thank you so much, Kevin. And to our audience, you've been listening to Kevin Blanch on Double Cross Radio on UCY.TV. And Jules is telling us that we've got to wrap it up because we've got another show coming on. So we're going to sign off here. And I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. And we'll be back again next week on Thursday at 7 p.m. We secede every Thursday, just like they do here in the state of Jefferson. Thanks for listening. Take care.
Unite the clans.